Welcome to NEWS.am. Today I have the honor to host the former President and Foreign Affairs Minister of Switzerland, Mrs. Micheline Calmy-Rey. Thank you very much for your time, Mrs. Calmy-Rey.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to speak about the Zurich Protocols.
You have been the President of Switzerland twice, in 2007 and 2011. You have also headed the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs of Switzerland for 8 years, from 2003 till 2011. This was also the period when Switzerland mediated between Armenia and Turkey on normalization from 2007 till 2009. As the chief diplomat of Switzerland, you have not only attended the signing ceremony of the Armenian-Turkish Protocols in Zurich on October 10, 2009, but have also actively been engaged in the negotiation process before. I remember that on April 6, 2009, a meeting was held in Istanbul between US then President Barack Obama, you, and then foreign ministers of Armenia and Turkey on the normalization agenda. I also remember that when you visited the United States about 2 months before the signing of the protocols, met with then State Secretary Hillary Clinton in July, Clinton, during the briefing, thanked you for Switzerland's active engagement and endeavors in some international issues, including the mediation between Yerevan and Ankara. And I want to say that besides you are familiar enough to Armenia and issues very important for Armenian nation, because in 2003 the Swiss Parliament adopted a resolution on the recognition and condemnation of the Armenian genocide. You as a high-level official have visited Armenia, if I am not mistaken, for 3 times, both in 2006 and 2008 as a foreign minister, and in 2011 you paid an official visit to Armenia as president, and it was the first official visit of the Swiss president to our country ever. And during your visits, you have met not only with the presidents and foreign ministers of that time, but also with the Catholicos of all Armenians, Garegin II. You have visited Tsitsernakabert, the Armenian Genocide Memorial, and you have planted also a tree in Tsitsernakabert's memory alley back in 2006. So I want to thank you one more time for this opportunity.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me also.
Ms. Calmy-Rey, we are going to talk about the Armenian-Turkish relations as a new normalization process is underway currently, but I would like to start our interview looking back into the previous attempt of Armenia and Turkey to normalize their relations back in 2009. During that process and after the signing of the Zurich Protocols, Turkey was permanently insisting on the formation of a Joint History Commission seeking to push out the issue of the Armenian genocide and its recognition from the international agenda, and was linking the normalization process with the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Armenia was insisting on the establishment of diplomatic relations and the border opening without preconditions, suggesting that other important issues be discussed later at the interstate level. The states that supported normalization process were also stressing that it's necessary to move forward without preconditions and do not suspend the ratification process. You, as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, as the President of Switzerland, were among those who called to take additional steps towards the normalization then. Eventually, the Zurich Protocols were not ratified, the process failed. What do you think? What was the main reason that Turkey decided to put forward that preconditions and refused to establish diplomatic relations and open the border first, and only then, after that, discuss all other issues?
Yeah, thank you for the question. You know, at that time, Armenia, and still not have now, Armenia and Turkey have no diplomatic relations. And your country's border remains closed. In 2007, the 2 countries, Armenia and Turkey, with good reasons for wanting to break this deadlock, asked Switzerland to undertake a historical study of the tragic events that marked the end of the Ottoman Empire, on one hand, and on the other, to facilitate a broader process with the goal of normalizing the relations, the bilateral relation between Armenia and Turkey. Switzerland responded positively, given its interest in lasting stability in the Caucasus. For Turkey and Armenia, the normalization of their relations required an immense effort and unfailing political courage, and for both the political feasibility of resuming normal relations, both internally and externally, was not given due to various factors. First of all, Turkey and Armenia are culturally different and have different perceptions of history. The difference in perception regarding the events that took place, genocide questions, is fundamental to a certain degree identity related. The situation is not satisfactory for either side. Turkey faces accusation of genocide and a problem with an immediate neighbor. Armenia is experiencing economic difficulties because of its border with Turkey being closed. In the background of the relationships lies the Nagorno-Karabakh question. The Swiss diplomacy deliberately left the question out of the negotiations, focusing on technical points, such as how to open the border and how to facilitate economic relations and how to establish a historical commission as a first step for both parties to deal with the past. The omission of Nagorno-Karabakh caused the failure of the Zurich Protocol, as this highly political question raised its head at the concluding stage of the negotiation. If you allow me to say something about the signature. On arrival in Zurich, the texts of the Turkish and Armenian speeches were reread by each of them, by each delegation, the Turkish one and the Armenian one. And it turned out that they were both hardly acceptable to the other. It was not the protocols, it was the speeches for the ceremony. One speak about 1915 and genocide, that was unacceptable for the Turks, and the others make the connection with Nagorno-Karabakh. And shortly before 5 p.m., when most of the delegation were on site, Hillary Clinton's car suddenly turns around. There were flashing lights, traffic jammed. The American Secretary of State decided to return to the hotel where she had her quarters. And Edouard Nalbandian, your former foreign minister of Armenia, was waiting for her there. And I locked myself in a university's office with Ahmet Davutoglu, who was at that time Foreign Minister of Turkey, and his delegation, and then begins a long diplomatic ballet between all delegation and in attempt to correct the text and proposal to sign the protocols without any comments, neither Turkish nor Armenian. So everybody went busy, the ministers tried to arbitrate. You can imagine there were a moment of terrible tension. And finally, with more than 2 hours delay, a few hesitation, telephone calls to the presidents to have their mind, and the insistence of international sponsors, if I may say so. There was Hillary Clinton, Sergey Lavrov were present there, and everyone rushed in the ceremony room, and the protocols were signed without any speech, except for a short introduction on my part. So it was really difficult. It was, the negotiation about the Zurich Protocols were very difficult. The Zurich Protocols involved 2 linked protocols, the one relating the opening of the border and the other relating to the establishment of a historical commission. And really, the negotiations were very long. Switzerland committed itself as mediator, proposed methods, solutions. Both Armenia and Turkey committed themselves to negotiate and agreed on the role given to Switzerland. And during the negotiations lasted 3 years. Many meetings were held. You said before, you remind of the meeting with Barack Obama in Istanbul. And there were really a lot of meetings in fringes of international conferences, in Davos, in the World Economic Forum, in Berlin, in Istanbul. And our mediation, the Swiss mediation, ended in October 2009 with the signing of the protocols. But the lessons learned is we had to acknowledge that mediation is not only a technical issue. It is not enough to find the right words, reasonably acceptable compromises. It is necessary to give confidence and show infinite patience without any guarantee about the issue. The experience also underscored the importance of politics. Once the Karabakh conflict was raised by Turkey at the instigation of Azerbaijan after the signature of the protocols, the ratification was no longer possible.
Thank you, Ms. Calmy-Rey. Azerbaijan opposed the normalization process, putting serious pressure on Ankara. Then Turkish, then President Gül, Prime Minister Erdogan, Foreign Ministers Babacan, and after that Davutoglu paid numerous visits to Baku to give Azerbaijan's leadership guarantees that the final normalization would be impossible without the settlement of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, assuring that Azerbaijan's interests wouldn't be shadowed. Azerbaijan condemned the signing of the protocols in October, saying that it was in direct contradiction with its national interests. Moreover, a dispute emerged then on the prices and export of the natural gas from Azerbaijan to Turkey then. Was Azerbaijan's pressure the crucial reason that made Turkey to hold on its firm positions, or there were other factors affecting Turkey's position? What do you think?
No, as I said to you, the Azerbaijan came at the end, after the signature of the protocols, of the Zurich Protocols, made some pressure on Turkey and say, we are not anymore your friends if you ratify these protocols. So you know the relations between Azerbaijan and Turkey, and so Turkey renounced to ratify the Zurich Protocols. This was a reason. As I said, it was, but I mean, the fact that we did not want to take on the mediation the question of Nagorno-Karabakh was accepted by both parties, by Armenian and by Turkey. It was only after the signature that the Nagorno-Karabakh questions come again, the political side, you know, and as I said, we had to acknowledge that we underscore the importance of politics. That means of the question of Nagorno-Karabakh.
Ms. Calmy-Rey, you mentioned the episode when the Zurich Protocols were signed in 2009 on October 10. Then you mentioned what was the problem and what was the reason for the delay of the signing ceremony. And the protocols were eventually signed, and it wasn't followed by any statements, as you mentioned, by both sides, as it had been agreed due to the efforts of the mediators. Didn't that episode raise any concerns about the future of the protocols? It's interesting. Did you really see then any chances that the protocols would finally be ratified and diplomatic relations would be established, or were there any doubts and risks then?
No, we were very confident that the protocols could be ratified because they were signed and they were accepted by the two presidents, the Armenian one, the Turkish one, supported by the United States, supported by Russia. And it was in interest both of Armenia and Turkey, in the economic interest of Armenia, because the land is locked. You are a landlocked country now. The borders are closed towards Azerbaijan and towards Turkey, and it was in the economic interest of Armenia that the borders are open. The normalization was in the interest of Armenia, but also was in the interest of Turkey, because Turkey could increase its influence in the Caucasus region, and it was also in the interest of Turkey. So it was a win-win agreement, and it also tackled the question of the genocide, and Turkey for the first time accepted a historical commission on this question, an international commission of experts on this question. So we were confident that at the end, the two protocols could be ratified. But it didn't happen because we, as I said, and once again I repeat, the political questions came after the signature, at the time that Azerbaijan read the protocols and said, okay, what are Armenia and Turkey doing there? So they intervened in the ratification process and said to Turkey, no, you cannot do that. So, and afterwards Armenia didn't ratify either.
Ms. Calmy-Rey, the geopolitical situation has dramatically changed in the South Caucasus during the last decade, and specifically after the Second Karabakh War. Armenia lacks the position and the opportunities it used to have back in 2009. The policy of Turkey has also been changed in terms of its growing geopolitical ambitions and the new and more influential role it has gained in the South Caucasus following its huge assistance to Azerbaijan during the last war. Azerbaijan seeks to capitalize the results of the war and is constantly pressing on Armenia into making concessions. Russia is more actively and directly engaged in the regional processes, not only in terms of peacekeeping mission in Artsakh, but as a mediator of the ongoing talks between Yerevan and Baku. Moreover, a regional platform named 3+3 has been launched. Russia, Turkey, Iran, Armenia and Azerbaijan are involved in this format now. Georgia has rejected to take part yet. So how does such kind of regional transformation influence the ongoing negotiations between Armenia and Turkey? What do you think?
What I think, I have first of all to say that after the Second Karabakh War, the ground realities have changed. And there is a huge gulf between the Armenian and the Azeri positions. As far as Azerbaijan is concerned, the conflict is over. And there can be no compromise on territory. In Armenia's view, the independence of Nagorno-Karabakh remains a prime objective. I think you agree with what I am saying now. It is far too early to think about any sustainable solution, for example, a peace agreement to this issue. However, in the absence of a sustainable political agreement, peace remains a distant hope on the horizon. The ceasefire agreement signed on November 2020 does not settle the question of the final status of the territory. And indeed, regarding the statements concluding the meeting of November 2020, November 2021, the trilateral meetings focus on borders, demarcation and mobility issues. And in addition, the Moscow summit of the 11th of January 21 focused on establishing the right economic solutions first by unblocking transport routes, rebuilding infrastructure, creating interlinkages between the various countries involved. And so, you know, as I said, no solution no sustainable solution for the short time. That is the situation now. And focus on economic relation, focus on mobility, on infrastructure, and on unblocking transport routes, etc.
Ms. Calmy-Rey, what do you think? Is it more realistic that Armenian-Turkish normalization can become a reality this time? Are there more chances compared to the period of football diplomacy or not?
Armenia and in the today's normalization process, the issue of Karabakh is like in 2008 and 9 is out, because for different reasons, not the same reasons as in 2008. In 2008, it was the will of the parties not to tackle this issue, but to stay on technical issues. But now it is different, because in the eyes of the Azerbaijan, the situation on territory is solved, because they won the war and there is no issue for focusing on the territory. It is difficult to foresee any meaningful dialogue on Nagorno-Karabakh without the establishment of diplomatic relations between Armenia and Turkey and a genuine political dialogue, even normalization, between Armenia and Azerbaijan. As you know, Azerbaijan and Turkey have very close relationship in every aspect. And that's why in the case of both Armenia, Azerbaijan and Armenia-Turkey relations, one of the main stumbling blocks is, in my mind, the lack of recognition of the Armenian genocide on the part of Turkey. It's still not solved. In the normalization process, it's not on the table. It's done without preconditions. In 2009, this question has seen the beginning of the solution with the establishment of an international commission of experts in charge of examining history. But the Nagorno-Karabakh issue remains unsolved also, and the Zurich Protocols were never ratified for this reason. And today, the territorial question seems to be resolved, at least in the eyes of the Azeris, but the question of the recognition of the genocide remains open. So, I mean, I think it's correct to focus now on the normalization of relations between Armenia and Turkey. And I think in the eyes of the Turks, the question of the territory is solved, but was not the case in 2008. And so the normalization process has better chance today. I think so, even if a sustainable peace is not in a very near horizon, you know, it must be, in my eye, an appropriate transition period before any political settlement can be implemented.
Ms. Calmy-Rey, the special representatives of Armenia and Turkey have already had two meetings, the first one in Moscow this January and the second one a few days ago in Vienna. After these meetings, the same statements were issued by both sides, reiterating their agreement to continue the process without preconditions. But now there is a great concern in Armenia that Turkey will again put forward preconditions at some point. And is there any way to avoid such a scenario? What do you think? How much do you think the asymmetry between Armenia's and Turkey's capabilities now will affect the possibility of reaching mutually beneficial solutions?
I want to just to say some words about the transition period, why I think it's necessary to have a transition period before political settlement can be implemented. Recognition that the present territorial situation should be preserved for some years, and a referendum in Nagorno-Karabakh territory at the end of this transition period could be organized. During the transition period, there will be issues such as humanitarian relief, repatriation, rebuilding of infrastructure, and so on. They must assume primary. As for the United States, if you allow me to say a word about the other countries, along with France, formally remains a mediator of the conflict, as one of the three co-chairs of the OSCE with Russia. There is little to talk about the political side at the present, with the final Armenian-Azerbaijani peace agreement still far off. The priority are short-term. And the difficulty in promoting dialogue, reconstruction, demining, economic exchanges, the difficulty is here lying in the closed border, in the fact that the borders are closed between Armenia and Turkey. And I think the normalization process is in the interest of both countries. But in the interest of Armenia, for economic reason, you know, it would facilitate the movement of Armenian in Turkey, reunify families, facilitate the movement of Armenian workers in Istanbul. And Yerevan is now excluded from major energy and transport project in the region. The pipeline, the South Caucasus gas pipeline is excluded. The Baku Kars Railroad is closed. And with its border open, Armenia would have easier access to Turkish and European markets because of the closure of the Turkish and Azerbaijani borders. Your country is forced to use longer and more expensive mountainous routes via Georgia and Iran. So, and for Turkey, also the positive aspect of this normalization process is the biggest influence in the South Caucasus. So, I mean, both parties have an interest there, but an obstacle, one of the obstacles is this closed border. So you have to find a solution about that. One more word about the Minsk Group. I know that Armenia continues to invest its hope in the Minsk Group and the OSCE. The Minsk Group is badly discredited as it has produced no tangible progress in nearly 3 decades of efforts. But it is still the only game in town in terms of providing an international mechanism for resolving differences, for dialogue. And I mean, Armenia does indeed have every reason to seek the support of the OSCE and the Minsk Group, especially since Armenia lost the war and sit in an unfavorable position at the negotiating table. So I wanted to say that to see what are the forces in present around the table. So today's attempt is probably more promising than the previous one. It is without conditions. The subject of contention, the genocide, is not on the agenda. I'm sorry to say that, but we have put it in the agenda in 2008. Now it is not anymore on the agenda. Second, the Second Karabakh War changed the situation on the ground. This may, however, come up against an obstacle. The opening of a road and rail corridor, now the Zangezur corridor, will allow Turkey to have a land continuum with Azerbaijan. That's what Turkey wants. And a project impossible to realize without the approval of Armenia, since this corridor in question passed through the southern region of Zangezur. And Armenia, you know better than I know, is hardly in favor of this. Baku wants to control the corridor, and if its securing becomes a condition, despite Armenian objections, then the talks could fail. So I think you have better chances to normalize, but some obstacles are on the routes.
Yes, Ms. Calmy-Rey, after 2009, the Armenian genocide, many states have recognized the Armenian genocide, and the two chambers of the US Congress adopted resolutions in 2019 recognizing the Armenian genocide, and President Biden also recognized the genocide in his April 24 message last year. What do you think? How has the recognition by the United States changed the situation around the Armenian genocide and its recognition process, and how can it now influence the current process between Yerevan and Ankara?
Yeah, it's difficult to imagine a successful initiative coming from Turkey. I talked a lot with the Turkish delegation during the negotiation of the Zurich Protocols, and this was a very, very, very sensible question for them. And the only compromise we could find was the creation of the Commission of International Experts to examine from a scientific point of view the events of 1915, because it was a suggestion of Switzerland, I have to say, because Switzerland had to analyze also its role in the treatment of the Jewish people during World War II. And we have done this with a historical commission, and we had a debate in Switzerland on our role, what we have done, etc. And we thought it could be a first step in the recognition from the side of Turkey. But now, as I say, for me, it's difficult to imagine an initiative coming from Turkey, but the good sign is that the question is not anymore raised by Turkey as a precondition to begin the normalization process.
And Ms. Calmy-Rey, so what to do if Turkey, for example, sets some preconditions concerning the Armenian campaign for the international recognition of the Armenian genocide? Or what if Turkey, for example, says it will unblock the regional infrastructures only after Azerbaijan's demands are met by Armenia? Is Armenia to withdraw from the process, set its own preconditions in response? How to avoid such kind of possible deadlock? What does your mediation experience suggest?
Yeah, I mean, I am not Madame Soleil, as we say in French. I cannot say if preconditions are. There are no preconditions for the time being. So let's hope that the normalization process is in good way. I hope for your country, really, because I was several times in Armenia. The last times 2 years ago, and I visited a lot of people. And I see that you are landlocked and it's not a good situation for you. You need to be open to other countries and to be able to have some economic exchange, and people could walk, etc. I promise myself, if the normalization process is a success, I will spend holidays between Gyumri and Kars. I will come for 1 week there to applaud to the normalization process, to the success of the normalization process, because, you know, I have in my head all this difficult negotiation we had between Turkey and Armenia. But at the end, you have also a lot of common interest in the region, and it would be a good thing if you succeed. So I wouldn't say, I would say to you, don't speak about retiring, stopping the negotiation, trying to find common ground and common solutions to your problems. Certainly be some.
Yes, and additional and the last question. What would be your advice to current negotiators? What to do in order to reach a mutually acceptable solution, and what not to do in order to avoid a deadlock?
I cannot give advices to your negotiators, because you are defending your own interest, and you know better than I know what is very important for you in the today's situation. But I mean, you know, negotiations are every time difficult, are always difficult. The negotiations need patience, need sometimes take a long time. The first signature of the Zurich Protocol took 3 years, 3 years of hard negotiations. And perhaps you cannot expect to have success in 2 or 3 months, you know. But once again, the hope, don't go with preconditions. It's always something we cannot recommend to anybody, to go into negotiation with preconditions, because otherwise you have to stick to these positions, and you cannot really discuss with some flexibility and making a step towards the other one. So I wish you really good luck, but I wouldn't adventure me to give you some advices. You know better than I know what are your interests.
Thank you for this opportunity and this interesting interview, Ms. Calmy-Rey.
Merci à vous.
We were talking to Micheline Calmy-Rey, the former president and the former Foreign Affairs Minister of Switzerland.